be living next door to this, is there a way to incorporate the current, because I don't know that there's another location of where those dumpsters could be moved to, but to incorporate the dumpsters in the design of the patio so that they're somewhat hidden, because I mean, this is also, you know, kids walk to school and how families are walking past, so some way to somewhat hide them a little bit more. You know, because I do think that they're, you know, especially in the summer when the patios are not being used, there's all sorts of critters who would enjoy snacking on the leftovers in those dumpsters. So, you know, if there's some way to incorporate them so they're a little bit more hidden in the design of the patio, would be something I would prefer.
Is that a possibility?
Absolutely. Like I said, it's something that we've done in many of our locations. It's something that we can easily do here. So it just kind of depends on your preference.
So
the condition for staff? Is it the same, or is it, I just want to see if it would be modified?
I don't think he's got any stipulations.
he does not.
Okay, so if you wanted to put a stipulation, you put it into the motion. Who was next? I can't remember. Commissioner Dan and then Commissioner Perrin.
Well, I just have a question on that, I guess. I'm looking at the at the elevations, and I'm wondering if that door on the north side, but in the east corner there, is that part of your lease space, or is that to access the upstairs?
That's an old door that is not utilized any longer. I believe it used to be a stairway back in the day that is completely blocked off.
Completely abandoned. There's no stairway, there's no way to open the door, nor would you have access to anywhere if you did.
Okay, so you have plenty of room to do something.
Absolutely.
So
on the garbage, to be clear, we like enclosing ours. We like the aesthetics of making it invisible. We would like, and I think in chatting with you up until now, we understand that we thought the trash where it was permissible. What you should expect us to want to do is to the east side of the patio, I think maybe to what you were referring to. We would like to enclose it there and have it outside just as an owner of the business. We didn't think that was a requirement for approval, but that's what you should expect us to do.
Mm-hmm. Yep, well, we could put it in motion just to ensure that.
And we typically just do, you know, also add to it, we typically do have 2 containers, one for recycling, one for regular disposal. So it is something that we typically require for all of our locations, if that's allowed by the city, of course.
Commissioner Conlon?
I have another question, but to follow up on that, I mean, the chocolate factory was just a couple doors down from this corner location. So they must have had their trash containers either, you know, right in the alley right behind their building or some corner of the parking lot. So, you know, so it would be out of the ordinary to have something in the alley or, you know, back or somewhere.
Yeah, it's just a matter of quantity.
Mm-hmm.
Is there shared like dumpsters anywhere?
I imagine that there are for that building. Yes, not everyone has their own.
Right.
Yeah, there's too many tenants in that building that anyone would have their.
For the Mosaic, they share dumpster space internally.
Yes.
I would just also add that again, don't think of us quite like a restaurant where there could be tons of food going out the back door. We make most of our own products. We have tight control of our own inventory. So I don't want to say that there isn't any. There is, but I also don't want you to, you know, exaggerate it. And certainly we're in self-control of most of that. And so again, I know there is a restaurant a couple doors down, but think of us less as a restaurant and as a coffee cafe place that has some wonderful lunch items and bakery items that we make for ourselves and pizza.
Yes. Commissioner Dan.
Let me just ask on this refuse issue. Is that something that still has to go in front of the design review board?
It is, yeah. So as it had been proposed, it was going to be in, you know, the back area of the lot. Obviously, the expressed that they're perfectly fine, yes, enclosing it.
They want to enclose it.
Yeah, it's required to be enclosed, if it worked in the back corner of the lot, we'll say.
The reason why I ask is because, again, I think the issue for us, for the plan commission, I mean, the restaurant there is a permitted use. It's the outdoor patio that's a conditional use, so, you know, I'm all about, I think it's gonna look great if the garbage is enclosed, I'm all for that, but I'm saying for what we're talking about, I wonder if we refocus on the outdoor patio. Maybe not.
It's still true. So the only reason I mentioned that I think it's appropriate, it can be appropriate, is that it does add additional tables. And so additional tables adds additional refuge, and so we deal with that at parklets, you know, same thing. And so that's the benefit of having space for an outdoor patio as well as outdoor seating. That's why we give special privileges for sidewalk cafe, you know, for sidewalk tables. But it definitely has an impact on operations such as garbage. So I think it's permissible to talk about in terms of how it would affect one of these conditions. I can't remember, but it's
Okay.
but I get your point. We can refocus on specifically the patio.
A couple other questions. The patio is going to be in operation the same hours that the cafe is open. And I don't remember, I glanced briefly this morning at our commercial lighting ordinance that we passed a few years ago, and there's nothing in there about hours or the music. So I'm just wondering, how does this relate to parklets? Because they have restrictions on noise.
Those are in our public right away. This is on their personal property.
So,
Right.
so even though the lighting ordinance, they'd have to have their lighting shielded and.
Just like a regular business, right?
Okay.
Just
And
like
a
in
regular noise ordinance would, that the village has to apply.
Can you answer that question now? Is it in the, is it?
Do you want the noise?
Yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, under chapter 383 of the ordinance titled Noise, it says that.
Thank you.
Literally, machines or devices for the producing or reproducing of sound cannot be done in such a manner as to unreasonably disturb the peace, quiet, and comfort of the neighboring inhabitants, or louder than is reasonably necessary for convenient hearing. But then there's a specific provision further down. It says, the operation of any such devices between the hours of 11 p.m. and 7 a.m. in such a manner to be plainly audible at a distance of 50 feet from the building structure or vehicle in which it is located shall be prima facie evidence of a violation of this subsection. So that's
Okay. I'm just thinking the parklets don't allow it right now. But our code allows you to have outdoor speakers.
well, and yeah, I mean, I think that would cover it.
Okay.
Any device for the producing or reproducing of sound, certainly seems to be.
We've thought over this for 3 Lions, and that's why I was asking about it. Specifically, I do know that whether it was permitted or not, that we do have them. And so, and I do know there's a decibel level, and the police can get called, and they come out, and they do some sort of decibel. Is that correct, Justin?
Yeah, noise is, I'd say rather vague. It talks about, you know, the general repose of, you know, residents and things. The only decibel readings that come into the village ordinances are for air conditioning equipment. So I would say that, again, if someone calls and complains, yes, the police will respond and cite the general ordinance, but the police do not take this ordinance.
Okay. Commissioner Kuda?
Can I just ask the applicants, do you plan on playing music outside?
No, it is,
Holding out numbers like
Good answer.
They call out numbers like table number 8.
It is ambient music speaker. It is really just a background noise. Think of it as a white noise.
But they'll hear it outside.
They'll hear it outside.
Yes, if we're going to play music outside.
Yes,
Yeah.
we're going to play music, not
Not like
live
bands
music,
or-
not live bands or anything like that. We're going to have a speaker
We're-
outside.
We're a
coffee shop.
cafe, so we're a cafe, we want people to be talking and hearing each other, and so any music we're playing inside or outside is background, subtle.
It's not like a bar where we're playing
Right.
sports or something. Was that your question? Okay.
Right.
I have a few
I
after
was
Commissioner Kuda.
this might be getting close to the final one. All right, so one of the things the plan commission is supposed to consider is public health, safety, and all that. So I'm just wondering about the safety of the fire pit. If someone goes to have coffee with their young child, the dog's on a leash, our dog's allowed in the patio, I assume.
Yes, yeah.
Okay, so is there any kind of screening around that fire pit?
There is glass that typically goes around the fire itself, that, you know, it has a certain height, but yes, there is typically glass that goes around it.
Around the fire pit. So going on her question about the fire pit, and I know Ruckus has one, and I love them, so I'm really excited about that, yeah. But aren't they prohibited in residential area? I mean, like, so residents can't have an outdoor fire pit, is that correct?
They can.
Yeah, they
They
can.
can?
One and
Not
two
allowed by
family,
commercial fire.
yeah, one and two families. It's very complicated answer in terms of like a rear yard fire pit.
Yeah, that's what
Yes, we do allow them,
okay.
yes.
And my home commercial allows them as well? I've heard both ways, so I'm just asking.
Yes,
So in this district, which is, well, actually, it's a residential district. What is the district?
it's B3,
B3,
B2,
Me too.
which allows, okay,
mixed use.
mixed use and.
Yeah,
full
it's
residential.
different than a grill. So,
Okay.
commercial, like condo owners or apartment
Oh, I see what you're
buildings
saying.
cannot have grills.
Yeah, but they can have an open fire pit. Okay, well, I guess it doesn't have any signals, the open fire pit, grilling something.
All right,
Yes.
getting towards the end here, all right. I've got a few posters to go. So the application said there will be a canvas wind blockers on the north side of the patio, so the awnings that project from the building, and then those are gonna have like a pull-down screen on that north side.
That's correct. Yes, it's to essentially kind of screen off some of the wind, so it becomes a little bit cozier up there.
Is it, did you say it's open year round?
No, it's weather permitting, so kind of typical spring, summer, fall.
Okay.
The reason for the covering, when done, would be, those days where it's
Right now?
55 degrees out, and if we can just put that down for a little while with the fire pit, it creates a little ambiance where people will still want to be outside and not too cold. So it's that transitional kind of day.
Do you have, are you planning to do outdoor heaters?
No, just the fire pit itself.
Commissioner Miller, anymore?
No, not until we get to the parking exception.
Okay.
Good.
I just have a few. So, I'm going off of the ruckus approval that we did at the board, and we don't require applicants to provide a survey, correct?
That's correct.
A new survey, and I really feel strongly, I'm going to say it every time, that we do, because we were 3 feet off on that property. We had to give a special, like an exception or privilege because they built over, but just because the survey, we just don't
Right.
have accurate data
Uh-huh.
until later on, and so so I can't ask that today, like, do we have accurate data, because we have what we have, but just please consider that as part, we're talking about process improvement. I really think that it will help, especially as we start mapping on GIS, that we require that. Did we bring that up before, Commissioner Carpenter? We spoke about that before.
As a design review board require a survey? No.
So, and that, yeah, it's,
This.
I do think we wrote, I thought we did.
For
in this
additions,
discussion.
again, it would have to be shown that the improvement being made on patio is wholly on their property.
It is very.
Yeah, we do allow older surveys, so we don't always require someone to have, a current within 10-year survey. With ruckus, I'll say, that is a surprise, only in that, unless it was discovered at the time, we require an as-built.
Yes,
For
it's
additions, right, we require as-built, so.
Oh, yeah, there was addition.
Yeah,
It's definitely just a
exactly.
facade fix.
Right. Yeah.
So, right, so I think it was the as-built. So I think you're absolutely correct. Okay, so anyways, just consider that for commercial properties. I remember we talked about it for residential. I don't remember reading that in that it was maybe too expensive. I don't remember, but for commercial properties, I really feel requiring that would be very helpful for our GIS mapping anyways. My other question is, you covered the fire pit right away. I had one more.
I have one.
Oh, yes, Commissioner Klein.
So we have this one letter from somebody, is there any other feedback?
We have not gotten any other comments from anyone else.
And, the comment in the letter about roasting coffee, did we talk about that?
Yeah, they
Yes.
said they're not going to be on site.
No. So nobody else concerned?
Other than the gentleman with us tonight.
And was the property owner notified?
Of which one?
This is, are you the property owner or this is a tenant, right?
No.
We're done.
Yeah, they're tenants.
So the property owner
Yes.
notified and is, oh, we didn't hear anything back.
Nope. I believe he stopped in one time. Did he come in with you guys one time?
You mentioned Bart.
He's not been at one point, I
He's
believe.
been through our office in regards to them coming to the space though.
Okay. Okay, I still think we should sign off, yes.
One of the economic development priorities that this group identified last month was maybe more consideration and respect for residents who abut the commercial district. So I really do take their concerns seriously. However, I think that this would be a really great addition. The CDA has talked about buying some of those properties on Oakland and making pocket parks out of them. And I guess the closest example of this I can think about is the Stone Creek Coffee patio on Downer Avenue that extends from the north side of their building.
Maybe you just.
Right, and based on the drawings submitted with the application where they have solid screening to the east, and evergreens, looks like they're going to grow a little bit taller, that there'll be enough screening from the residents that if the noise and the lighting is not too obtrusive, they're just making coffee, they're not roasting it, they're serving bakery and sandwiches instead of cooking, that a lot of the concerns I think that the neighbors have might be alleviated. I mean, the all-day thing from 6:30 to 10 is a concern, but you know, if the noise gets to be too much, neighbors will probably call the SPD and then.
Just to clarify, we close at 8.
Oh.
Until 8 p.m.
I thought there was one that said you were. I could be. I'm sorry. I might be
No
confused
worries.
with the acupuncture.
No, that's okay. I just wanted to make sure that
Okay.
we're on the same page. That's all.
Right, got it.
Did you have another question, or I have a motion on
No, I just had a comment. I looked over and all of them were addressed. I'm really excited for the business to be here, so thank you for coming to Shorewood and choosing Shorewood to locate. I do, just for the commissioners, we may want to consider in the future, and I just want to put it out there, but when we do our comprehensive plan, the zoning for this area, because it allows for Oakland Avenue, if that is indeed where the focus of the business district is, it is a zone that you can have a fully residential building. I don't know if that, I'm just throwing it out there that there are other zoning districts that allow mixed use, but that do not allow single, just residential. And so I know in this strip that because of some of those older residential buildings, being purely residential, there's a gap in the business district so anyway, something to think about as we go through our comprehensive planning process. So that was all I had. Commissioner Dan, did you want to make a motion?
Yeah, I move to approve the conditional use permit application for Finland's Coffee to serve food or beverage outdoors at commercial property 4324 North Oakland Avenue, based on meeting conditions stipulated in 535-25C, subject to the receipt of a parking special exception.
Did we want to add anything? I can't remember. Trustee Carpenter, do you want to ask for a friendly amendment?
Yeah, can we make a friendly amendment to include with the addition of a enclosure of the two dumpsters?
She's just asking if you'll amend your motion.
Is that okay?
Sure.
Okay.
Throughout the village.
No.
Yeah, just say
enclose
enclose
their
their
dumpsters.
Right, enclosure of their dumpsters.
If they're located on the side of the building by the sidewalk,
Yeah.
not back in the parking lot.
Yeah.
Okay, sure, and do we have a second?
All right, for the original motion, I'll second that.
Nope, the original motion has been changed. Can you read the
Okay.
motion?
Okay, so Dan moved to approve the conditional use permit application for Potato Heads Coffee to serve food or beverage outdoors at commercial property 4334 North Oakland Avenue, based on meeting the conditions stipulated in 535-25C, subject to the receipt of a parking special exception and the addition of an enclosure for the 2 dumpsters for the business
Site.
on site.
Okay, do we have a second? I'll second it. Any further discussion? We have a new bid director. I don't know if you met her. Her name's Jeff Salvia. You want to reach out to her. She's excellent.
Thank you so much.
Okay, no further discussion. All those in favor? Oh, yes, we still have to do the parking exception, but we can go over.
We don't vote on this, yeah.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. We'll now move on to the next item, which is number 7. Consideration of parking special exception for proposed restaurant coffee shop at commercial property 4334 North Oakland Avenue, business owner Fiddlehead's Coffee. Stafford.
So Giovanna Kubrick, doing business as Fiddlehead's Coffee, has applied to operate a 1,910 square foot coffee shop with a 1,188 square foot outdoor dining area at 4334 North Oakland Avenue. Per 535-47D, parent 7, restaurants require 20 parking spaces per 1,000 square feet sit-down area. Based on the provided floor plans, which show approximately 1,800 square foot of seating, 36 parking spaces would be required per code. 2 on-site parking stalls are provided for employees, but none for the general public. Since this occupancy deals with a substantially altered space, as referenced within 535-50, parking provisions required by code shall apply. As a result, the applicant has applied for a special exception. Regardless of whether a conditional use permit for the outdoor area or beyond that. Fiddleheads will operate again 7 days a week with hours from 6:30 a.m. to 8 p.m. Monday through Saturday and 7 a.m. to 7 p.m. on Sunday, employing 15 to 20 people with a maximum of 8 people present on site at one time. The business is expected to serve between 275 and 300 customers per day. The indoor floor plan shows maximum seating for approximately 60 patrons, and the outdoor dining area features 44 chairs, around 14 tables, and an open fire pit with an additional seating for 8 patrons. In total, seating for up to 112 people is shown on their floor plans. In their special exception application, Fiddleheads has provided that their business typically brings in about 225 to 300 tickets a day with an average of 15 to 20 tickets per hour, 30 to 40 in rush hours. The traffic flow is a combination of pedestrians, cyclists, and auto users. The business is roughly split between dine-in and to-go orders. To-go orders typically turn around within 5 to 10 minutes, and the average stay for dining customers is 45 minutes. They anticipate that 6 to 10 spaces on North Oakland Avenue in East Lake Bluff would suffice for typical parking needs. Staff often utilizes public transportation, and this location is located on Milwaukee County Transit System's Green Line. And 2 parking spaces are available at the rear of the property for staff to utilize. A bike rack will be located within the patio area, in addition to the on-street bike racks already installed by the village. Per 535-51B, the Village Planning Commission shall consider the following as applicable prior to the granting of the special exception. And there are 13 conditions that follow, all in the packet. We'll spare you. The Planning Commission shall either approve or disapprove the application for special exception hereunder in accordance with the provisions of this article. shall specify the requirement or requirements that will be expected from the application, and shall find that the special exception is not inconsistent with the applicable provisions herein. Based on relatively quick turnover of patrons, prevalence of expected pedestrian customers, cycling, and transit opportunities, available on-street parking, and existence of similar operations in the village that have limited parking, staff has no objections to the special exception. The Chocolate Factory relatively recently occupied the space within this building for a restaurant without parking provisions. The coffee shop will generate additional customers to the area and provide an attractive outdoor amenity, which has been identified as a goal within the Central District Master Plan. The village's recent transportation and parking analysis, see pages 24 and 28, identified this block to have less than 50% on-street parking occupancy at 2 p.m. and 6 p.m. The study also...
Current conditions is what you're saying.
Yeah, current conditions. The study also summarized that there is a significant surplus of unoccupied on-street parking supply in the commercial district. For reference, City Market also has 0 off-street parking for customers. Starbucks has 6 off-street parking spaces. Collectivo has 26 shared off-street parking spaces with 2 other restaurant users. Residential visitors and retail customers to the Cornerstone. And Stone Creek Coffee has 24 shared off-street parking spaces with Wells Fargo.
Don't they share it with the daycare too?
Daycare,
Yeah, very well. So that's a big reserve. What'd you say?
We talked about that one.
I remember.
That was only 3 meetings.
So, so my question is, first, for the comparable uses, wait, do I have to open up to a public hearing? No? So for comparable uses, do they have the same, similar, like, tables, seating capacity?
I don't know that the seating capacity offhand. The patios are approximately the same size.
The table?
Yeah, indoor seating, they're comparable.
Was it thinking, next time, it would be good to have a, yes.
Yes, the actual numbers
Yep,
of how
yep,
many.
yes, that'd be helpful. We'll go through when we go through the planning process. City Milwaukee did this and they eliminated these requirements, but I just feel like there's no way to read that code.
Yeah, I think it'd be great for Brookfield, but it's, nearly impossible.
So every resident or resident has to, or this one comes before us, yes.
Yeah, so that was kind of my question, and my thought was, how many of these have we given out in the last?
Oh, then we should get rid of it.
So,
I mean, it's got to change.
Power cycle was the last one, I think, we had a special.
I know we did
it
on the
just feels like
daycare,
everybody
which makes
who
sense.
wants to open a business in
You
Shorewood
cannot meet the
needs it.
requirements.
And so,
Ascension.
Everyone.
right, so I just.
This is how Milwaukee
you know,
got
I
to
mean,
the point.
This is an urban community, and it just doesn't really feel very relevant, especially knowing what the transportation and parking analysis came back with. You know, that was very fascinating.
I don't think everyone knows that.
To me, I've heard regularly how tough parking is. For reference, I grew up in Los Angeles, so it's always a little hard for me to understand that, but to see the actual numbers that we really do have parking available within the village. It might not be right in front of the store where you're going, it might be half a block away, you know, but it is available. To me, I guess really kind of goes back to, is this relevant? And for new businesses.
Just so people don't know about the transportation study, I think the important part was there are pockets like Kensington Square area was identified as having a shortage. Not that Oakland Avenue has a shortage overall, but that area they did identify. So that would be a concern that maybe Plan Commission wants to review those analysis. But the surprising fact that I think Trustee and Commissioner Carpenter is referring to was the occupancy of those parking spaces is like 20-something%. 28% along Oakland Avenue at most times, especially at night, I think it was, at 7, was it? And then a little higher during the 2 to...
So at 2 o'clock, it's 28%, and then...
And that's the totality, so again, there's going to be those pockets, but it is quite funny that, I mean, it was very shocking to see the actual occupancy.
PM, it's 26%. And then at 11 p.m. it's 14%.
And again, I mean, I do, for the residents that are surrounding areas where there are pockets of businesses, we've been hearing from Kensington Square, and the consultants came back that they just need parking. There's too many businesses in one spot, which is great, that's what we want clusters. But, we need to figure out a way to make it work. Commissioner Kylie Miller and then Commissioner Day.
Are there any limitations on parking there in Oakland or Lake Bluff as 2-hour parking, or is it unlimited? So for those who like to take their laptop and camp out
Not
on
yet.
camp out on that patio on a beautiful day, I'm just wondering.
There are some 2-hour, and surrounding certain businesses, I just can't remember, Justin.
Yeah.
It's sporadic, and we kind of want, our recommendation, one of the recommendations is to make it very consistent, whether it's 1 hour, 2 hour, or whatever. And
There's nothing on Lake Bluff or Kramer.
There's no limit.
are you talking about the residential sides?
Towards the school there is, it's 2 hours.
Sure, I mean,
But on your side of the
on
street.
the east side of,
Okay, go ahead, Commissioner.
So there is 2-hour parking almost to someone's house on that block, at least on Google Maps. But my question was going to be,
Was it your house?
wouldn't be mine.
it's like two doors in front of someone's house, or 1 door in front of someone's house. I don't know
In front of my neighbor's
that. But, so here's my question though, because I know how that was dealt with on the, the southeast side of UWM. As residents, what is the process for residents? I'm just wondering if a resident on that block.
I'll tell you what the process is.
Okay, yeah, what happens if they want 2-hour parking?
Very, very, very familiar with this. We're going to address it in our parking study. So there's 2 ways that a residential block can restrict parking hourly. One is to be within the square around the university. So that is a village designated square, like boundary that we created so that because it's around the university, we copied what City of Milwaukee did. It took them 10 years to figure that program out and get it passed. I was there at that time. So we just PVAC'd, which was great, and it works very well because it's a village, you have to, as a resident, come pay your $10 a year, and you get a permit and you can park in front of your house, but nobody else can for 2 hours at a time, and then they get ticketed. Then there's a second type in the ordinance. They kind of conflict and you don't know which one's which, but there's a second type. And that is, if you're outside of that square, any residential block can petition. I think it's like a certain percentage, so you have to have a certain amount of signatures. And then if the police department has to go out on 3 different days and monitor how many cars, and to count the occupancy on that street when there's no like demarcations of how many, there's no lines. And they have to assume, and then as long as they calculate at these certain times, things like 4 times a day, for 2 weeks, or I don't know how many weeks it is, and it's occupied more than 60%, you can then petition the village to create a residential parking district where you can restrict it. So we've had 2 blocks do that to date, and I have objected to both. Only because, and I know Commissioner Kylie Miller has a difference of opinion, but only because most of the time it's surrounding the business district, and again, there's no physical way we can park, like a lot of the cars, unless it's just in the parking structure. And so, it's a if you're putting all this money into your business district and then you have the residents restricting all the parking, it's gonna be, it's hard. That was my objection to it, but the residents definitely like it.
I say the 4,000 block of Downer and Prospect petitioned to have the restricted parking to 2 hours because, again, we were falling victim to the UWM staff, faculty, students who would park in front of our houses at 9 a.m. from corner to corner, take their bikes off, pedal over to campus or walk. So it really wasn't the business district that was causing problems, it was UWM.
But it definitely restricts, like Noah's Ark, that, parking.
Yeah.
I mean, because then the surrounding businesses, you're encroaching upon that where the customers will park.
I would just like to comment, when you speak of the utilization on Oakland Avenue being so low, it is low because of the 2-hour parking requirement, and living right off of Oakland Avenue, I suspect if you did a study in front of my house, you would find that the occupancy rate of cars parked there is pretty much 100%, and it doesn't matter whether it is
Yeah.
8 in the morning, or 1 in the morning, or 3 in the morning. Cars are always parked there. My concern with this will be if you've got 8 people working there who are not going to be able to park in 2-hour parking spaces, where are they going to park?
That's a very good question, too. Where are these 2-hour, is it all along Oakland? I really don't know.
It's all of Oakland 2-hour parking.
I can scroll through Google on that one too.
Yes, please, pull that up, we need like a Google screen up here, we can map everything we talk
Makes
about.
me feel smart.
You've got information that we don't, I like that. Don't we prohibit cell phone use and?
Yeah, I was able to park in front of my dentist just west of Oakland on Lake Bluff, right in front of the building. So I guess I wouldn't be surprised if this, whenever I go next this fall, that those spaces will be occupied because the cafe is, customers are taking up more of them.
Yeah, it will affect,
I could use a few steps walking, but.
it definitely will affect side streets, is my guess, because of the employee parking too, as well.
And that actually is the bigger concern that I have, because when cars sit all day long, especially in the winter when we have snowstorms, the trying to clear the snow, the amount of time I end up with snow poured into my driveway is pretty excessive.
One of the recommendations for just, again, as we're talking about this, whether the parking study, that transportation parking was to alternate sides during winter months rather than have a
One side.
yeah, which may help if we adopt that.
Seems like it's a hodgepodge.
Which is
Right.
much. Oh, for
There's
the
2-hour parking in front of that, on that block on Oakland, there's 2-hour parking, but in front of some of the apartment buildings, it doesn't look like there's 2-hour parking, so it's kind of a mix.
I always thought that it was the businesses that petitioned for that because, my example, in front of my business, it's right across from St. Robert's, and they had a 2-hour parking, or no, 10-minute parking zone. For the whole parking in front of St. Robert's. And I asked, why is it 10 minutes? Because, the customers are not gonna come in to a Zen shop for 10 minutes. Anyways, I got it changed. And so it's business petition. But our consultant has recommended that we standardize, so I don't know what that means necessarily for that street.
You head north, it's all 2-hour parking from there.
Okay.
My only concern, this is not tied directly to this business, is the intersection of Kramer and Lake Bluff, which is the first intersection east of Oakland. It's a completely uncontrolled intersection. And if you're gonna have folks coming in to get coffee or whatever in the morning, it's fine, it's wonderful, the business is great. But that is a major thoroughfare for students coming from the eastern half of the village to Lake Bluff. So I will renew the concern I had during the parking study, that some sort of stop sign or yield sign needs to be put into that intersection. Not a 4-way, but it's a T intersection.
Right.
And cars are constantly flying.
You're talking about Lake Bluff? What was the
Kramer
project
and Lake
on
Bluff.
it?
There's not one on Kramer?
Control.
There's not one on there, nothing.
That's pretty
So
good.
you literally go,
The
if you
control
go south on
intersection
Kramer.
For with a light, they want
This has nothing to do with you guys, so sorry, but if you go south on Kramer, there's literally no stop sign, no yield sign, no crossing guard, nothing. And cars are constantly flying to catch that light, which has nothing to do with fiddleheads, but
We can put a coffee cart.
I have a soapbox. So I'm gonna say something.
Raise it right away. Excited. I'm gonna
Yeah.
speed up. I'm gonna put a, one way.
I think I've heard you talk about-
I get a soapbox, so I get to say what I want.
And a cul-de-sac, don't forget the cul-de-sac. Speed bump, one way.
Sure.
and a cul-de-sac.
It's just, it's just ridiculous. It's,
I understand.
I brought it up for years, and
We can relay that back to the
now I have a
director.
microphone
as we
and
go forward.
camera, so I'll say it again.
They did, we talked a lot about stop signs, especially along Olive, but there are several, multiple 4-ways in a row, which is what they did not recommend. But we also did talk about, there's 1 or 2 other intersections that are like this, that they had recommended, like behind Shorewood High School, that they had recommended having some sort of stop sign. So.
We will relay that to Bart, who's working on the staff recommendations.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, Commissioner Patel.
So on the parking issue, I mean, so the potential solution for, residents that live near Oakland, if this is gonna be an issue with, every business has employees, is to have the 2 hour, is that?
They can petition to do that. In my preference, is to actually designate spots, like, so for instance, at Kennedy Square, back at my first year here, so 4 years ago, the village manager at that time had worked out a deal where they gave passes for lots, that we rent out, and so that the employees could park, because you don't want the businesses would have no spaces for customers, and that was a problem there in that area. And so I do think we need to address employee parking in general in our business district, because it comes up every single time. And it is probably the biggest thing that I've noticed in multiple municipalities, is because they sit there all day. And it's like the school employees I'm on Bartlett, right across the street from Lake Bluff, and every day during school hours, it is completely parked up on my street. And then every day when school lets out, it completely is empty. And so it's definitely the people that work there, and you'll hear it over and over, it'll be a pattern. So as we go forward with the parking study, maybe that's something that we request, as a plan commission, to look at. But the 2 hours, certainly, that can be a possibility as well.
At least
I don't know on residential streets that we do that.
I mean, if you
Around the
designated,
corner.
like, around UWM, a certain amount of space, you could say within 2 blocks of Oakland, any block could petition, you know what I mean? Within 2 blocks of Oakland, any block could petition for it.
Let me think about this, for Starbucks. I do remember having that conversation where is there spots right around the corner? It's not consistent, but that could be an example. What, Justin, do you? So, I don't know that it's necessary here, I don't know, but Commissioner Patel was saying, is there a way to require that the side streets are a certain amount of spaces in our 2 hour sign for 2 hour parking?
That say like through the motion, you say that you want those changes?
How does that happen? How does that get into play?
Or do we already have us to do, because every street I can think of, and I was looking at, has it for, 50 feet?
Off of Oakland, yeah.
Off of Oakland.
Is it in our, why does that happen? How does that happen?
Can you adjust
I
it?
think so.
Is it by ordinance?
Yeah.
It says reps anywhere around Oakland Avenue?
It's got, there's a whole section here. with
Okay.
every
Sounds like
single
a
street.
building.
Yeah, it's very specific
Yeah, I think they're
to
changing.
every street. But yeah, most of the streets that run into Oakland have 2 hour for a certain number of feet off of Oakland up the streets, yeah.
And then if you had a comment, I'm sorry.
I can't provide you any statistical data on exactly what our employee base will be or exactly how many cars might be going to Fiddleheads at any moment in time. But just to give comfort, you should expect overwhelmingly our employees to be taking public transportation or walking. Our typical barista is of college age, and we have multiple cafes. We know the kinds of people we'll hire. They overwhelmingly will not be driving and parking for 8 hours a day. We'll be neighbors, so we can come in and talk about that at any time. I don't know the net difference between cars pulling into and going into Sherwood-Williams. We've been in there a lot. Most of their customers drive, park, go in. Most of our customers in any of our cafes live or work within about a mile to a mile and a half of one of our locations. That's what a cafe is. And so if we were relying on tons of parking for all of our customers, we wouldn't be on Oakland Avenue. We'd be considering something else. If you look at our location in Cedarburg or other places that would be of similar usage, we have no parking at all. It's because all of our customers hopefully like the gentleman sitting in front of us, will be stopping by for a coffee. We don't draw from 11 miles away where somebody's going to say, let's go there. Not that it won't ever happen.
And
So
we had in the past, the village has requested, like of the business owners, and just politely requested that they ask their employees not to park along, you know, and it's in their best interest not to have their employees.
Of course.
Because that's where the customers are gonna park in and out, but I just wanted to mention there is public parking in the structures at the Mosaic and Metro Market that are not utilized during the day. And so it's the 4th floor, so if there's, I don't believe we give up permits during the day. So
I will be shocked if the net cars parking goes down, not up, but I can't promise that or guarantee that. Just, if you think of our customer makeup and the customers we see coming in and out of Shorewood that are very car-centric or van-centric, okay? But just for perspective.
Commissioner Craig-Miller and then Commissioner Dick.
Considering that Shorewood, especially Oakland, north of Capitol, has some kind of coffee shop just about every intersection, it's not like anybody who needs some caffeine is going to go to this one location. You know, they're going to be kind of spread out, you know, the village. I'm not concerned about parking as I was about, you know, the other issues affecting the application that I voted on earlier.
Here.
So I'd like to make a motion, but I don't know, have we even gotten that far yet? Have we opened the public?
There is
I asked.
All right, so I'd like to make a motion. I move to approve the parking special exception for proposed restaurant coffee shop at commercial property 4334 North Oakland Avenue. Business owner Fiddlehead's Coffee, based on meeting the conditions stated in 535-51B.
Motion, or a second? Motion by Commissioner Dean, a second by Commissioner Carpenter. Further discussion? Just thank you again for coming short. With that, we will now take a vote. All those in favor say aye. Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Welcome to Shorewood. Good luck on your permits.
Thank you guys.
Thank you.
Look forward to it.
All right. Okay, that's me. Our next item on our agenda is schedule the next meeting.
Currently, we do not have any applications in right now for our meeting. If we would need one, the date would be the 24th of March. But right now, I don't have any applications.
No, but I will vote in here.
Okay.
Is that spring break?
Spring break. Okay. Well, right now, like I said, we don't have anything, so I don't think if we should have an application or anything.
Getting the keys by September,
So we're starting to get into this territory, just so everyone knows, recognition of not just applications, but we're gonna actually be doing initiatives. So we're gonna do a plan, we're gonna be doing the census, you know, the census stuff that we do, and then we also are looking at the zoning code and looking at things that, you know, as we did with the porches, patios.
Yes.
So I do feel that just expect, if there's not an application that coming up in the following year, upcoming year, we might have meetings without applications, but with initiatives. And we probably should just get an update a quick update from Bart on the next agenda, whenever it may be,
Okay.
on the parking study, just some of the, just because it affects, we do parking exceptions, and I think that would be beneficial for the commissioners.
The only thing I will say is we have received, but I don't believe that to the best of my knowledge is complete, an application for a zoning change for a vacation of a very large public area on public right-of-way at 1821 Menlo.
Right away.
Yeah, it's weird. It's a very large, it's almost essentially this whole guy's side yard.